Alright, so today we are going to do a firmware update video, and just to show you, all you people who subscribe to my channel, how to update the firmware on the flight control for the Zino, the gimbal, and the camera firmware. At this time there has not been any updates for the transmitter, so we don't need to get into that. I don't know that they will have a update in the future. There's not really much to update on this, but it is possible, and if they do, we will do a video on it. So right now there is no update for it, so therefore we're not doing one. But what we want to do is first we're going to do the flight control. Now, Hubsan advises that you update all the firmware at the same time, as far as do your FC, then your gimbal, then your camera. Don't just go and do the camera by itself. I don't know how much that holds true, if that's what you have to do. I will just say that I've updated my camera firmware without updating the other stuff. It showed up on my app. Appears to be working fine, so I don't know. But this is what Hubsan says to do, so we're going to do it. But anyhow, you want to go to Hubsan's website, and I'm going to move the camera around. I'm not going to do screen recording, so I'm going to move the camera so you can see each process that you need to see. So let's bring it into a better view of the laptop, and let's bring it up a little bit. Okay, so now you can see the laptop, and what you're going to do is you need to go to the Hubsan website and download the firmware by going to, actually we'll just go to the Hubsan website. And before we go there, there's my Facebook group. If you have not joined, it's Hubsan QC Help and Support, same name as this channel. That's one of my groups. I also have Hubsan USA, and that's for people who live in the United States. I'm not trying to segregate there. It's just for USA members only, just so people can interact and maybe find other people in their area and fly with them, whatever. And then I have the Hubsan H123 Jet and H122 Storm group, so feel free to join any of those groups. And that's the Hubsan official website with one of my videos. I only have that open because I asked them to remove it, and they have not. But here's my channel, and we are going to go to the Hubsan channel. Okay, there it is. So what you want to do, or Hubsan website, I'm sorry. What you want to do is you want to click on support, and then you go to Zino right here, and you click firmware and download. So then it'll download to your system. I've already downloaded it. So we want to open it up, and there's our firmware folder. And I know I'm not zoomed in real close, but I don't really think that you need me to be that close. So here we have, I'll go ahead and bring it a little closer, as close as I can. So here we have the firmware, and one thing we'll just take note, anytime you download new firmware, if they do supply a change log, go ahead and open it up and check it out. And I see here they're still using my format. I used to do the firmware change logs for them, and this was kind of like my format, but much more information. But they put some upgrading notice in there, but the changelog says increased hovering stability, increased aircraft adaptability at high latitude area, optimize wind resistance, and improve the video quality. And for the upgrading notice in this version, it says, please try upgrading all of them. Do not upgrade them partially. So we already talked about that. Please prepare the SD card and format it FAT32 before you start the camera firmware upgrading. And we'll go over that further when we get there. Please make sure the app version is up to date as well. I have my app updated, and it shows the two current versions of iOS and Android. You want to be 3.6.8 or 1.62 and higher for this firmware update. And then it says there is no updates for the transmitter. There's no updates for the transmitter, so keep the stock one. I don't think we really have a choice there because it says there is none available. So I don't know how to not keep it stock. So I think we're pretty safe there. We'll keep our transmitter controller with the stock firmware. I don't have any way of changing it. So that's the changelog. Nothing really big there. I think it's pretty much what it said on the last upgrade because you got the same flight control and stuff. All right, so let's go back. And we are going to upgrade the flight control first, which is down here. And it says 1.0.46 new. And I'm going to right click on the Zino upgrade tool. This is just how I do it. Run as administrator. And you'll get a notice on some computers that in this case, my Windows Defender is blocking it. I'm just going to click more info, and then I'm going to click run anyway. And here we're going to click yes. And the tool opens up. So here's our tool. And at this time, you want to take and plug in. And we'll back up. Oops. Knocking stuff over. You want to plug in your USB cable to your computer and your micro to the quad. So we're going to plug in, and we do not need the battery for the flight control upgrade, so please do not plug in your battery. And now we're plugged in. I've just recently redone this whole computer, so it's the window down here came that it was setting up the device, and now the device is ready. So we are plugged in, and you'll see a little red flashing light inside on the main flight control board is flashing when we establish our connection. Now let's go back to the screen. And what we're going to do now is select our firmware. Hopefully you can see all this good. All right, so you want to look down here and see that it says connected. Right now it says connected, so we're good there. And we are going to update. I'm going to brighten up my screen a little bit. There we go. We are going to click Open File, and it takes us to the firmware FC1046. We're going to select that and click Open, or you can just double click it, and then it's put here in the window. So now we're going to click Upgrade. Wait a few seconds and then it should start moving, and wait for it to hit 100%. This is where you play the Jeopardy music. And we are updated, and now it says not connected. And I've got a warning down at the bottom, but I'm not worried about it. I'm sure it took because we hit 100%. So now I'm going to close the tool. Hubsan recommends that you close the tool. I have done it where I've left this tool open and I've gone and upgraded my gimbal, but I'm going with what Hubsan says here. So I'm going to close the tool. And now that the tool is closed, we are going to unplug from the computer, and from the quad, I'm sorry. So we're unplugged. And our next step, we're going to upgrade the gimbal. So let's get all this moved around and try to get this all in a better shot. And raise it up a little bit here. I'll zoom in on, I'll get in closer to the screen again, but right now I just want to show you the process with the quad itself. So for the quad, you now want to connect the battery. And once you connect the battery, go ahead and power on. Oops. I didn't power on yet. Good. Remember to take off your gimbal cover. So take that off. Now we can power on the quad. And the chirps and lights are on. So now that it's on, we can now plug our cable into the side. And we're going to go to the folder. I'm going to move this aside now. We can go to the folder that says Gimbal Firmware. And that's right here. Double click. And then we are going to get the tool, right click, run as administrator. And again, I'm being blocked, so I'm going to click run anyway. Click yes, and the tool is open. So now we're going to go down here to Gimbal Program, and we're going to select the file. Go to the Gimbal folder, version 3.0.2.1 in this case. Select the file. And there it is. And click upgrade. Again, you want to make sure it says connected down here. And wait for it to hit 100%. The red light on the side of the quad too will be on. And almost done. And it's updated. Now my camera has just moved and calibrated. So I just wait a few seconds and unplug it from the quad. Turn off the quad. pull the battery, and we will close the program. The tool. So now that we have that closed, we're going to the camera firmware. This is probably the most crucial, important one because it involves a little bit more. And I'm going to go ahead and just open that folder and unzip it. Okay, so there it is unzipped. And this is the most crucial part because you need to have a properly formatted micro SD card. Now, Hubsan says their recommendation is a 64 gig to 128 gig micro SD. FAT32 is going to be your format. And at those sizes, they recommend you using the program Disk Genius, which I will put a link in the bottom of this video for that. But when I do my camera upgrades, I don't use my larger cards, my micro SD cards. That way I don't worry about forgetting to delete it, have it in the quad, and messing up my firmware update. So what I do is I go ahead and just use I don't know if you can see it, probably not. Let me block here so we're in focus better. Can't see it. Anyhow, what I use is a 8 gigabyte class 10 SanDisk Ultra micro SD card, and I format that FAT32 on my Windows computer. So take your micro SD card and put it in one of your adapters that you use. So we're going to do that now. Put it in there. Okay. Put this in the slot on my computer. And it's recognized, so now we're going to go and format it FAT32. Okay, nothing on it, but I'm going to format it. So you go down here to where it says format, and it says FAT32 default. Click start. Warning, formatting will erase all data on this disk. To format the disk, click OK. To quit, click cancel. Click OK. It does it very quickly. Format is complete. Close that, and we are done. Leave your micro SD card in your computer. Go back and open up the firmware. Go to the camera firmware. Now this is the most important part. My goodness, you got to click on it 100 times. All right, we're finally there. You want to keep clicking until you get to the bin files. And you want to load both of these bin files on your computer. On your micro SD. These are the only things you want on your micro SD card. Don't make the mistake of loading the folder itself. Open the folder, get the files, and copy them. Then go to your micro SD card and paste them. And there you go. So now we have them on our micro SD card. I'm going to eject that and we're going to do the update process. So we don't need the computer now. Back to the quad here. And I think it's good right there, but let's bring it closer so you can see. Let me get my card out. Eject. Okay, safe to remove. So now we're going to take a card and this side facing up. Put it in the quad. Press it in. And we want to plug in the battery. And now you want to long press power on, and we're going to be focusing right here. Again, make sure your gimbal cover is off. Watch the side. Now it's updating. If it does not flash fast like that, it is not updating and you have done something wrong. So you want to make sure you format FAT32, load the files the way I showed you, and you'll be good to go. So wait for that to finish flashing. And it is done flashing. I always just play it safe, wait a little bit longer, just to be safe. Everything's flashing normal. So now we can go ahead and turn it off. Take this card out. And I will not fly and use a small 8 GB SD card in the Zino, so that's why I put those files on this card. I don't have to worry about deleting the files and accidentally putting it in the quad and re-updating the firmware when I don't want to, or possibly harming the camera update. So I do it that way. I use a 64 gig card in mine. Hubsan does have some recommendations as to, using SanDisk or Samsung. Those are two of them. I forgot what the third one is, but they do have some recommended cards. That's just cards I guess they have tested and know to work. They obviously can't and don't test all of the generics. So again, it's between 64 and 128 gig. And they do have some cards that they recommend. And they also recommend that you go to the link that I'll supply you and use the Disk Genius to do your larger cards at a formatting version of FAT32. And that's it. So from there, you're just going to reconnect to your app, and you're going to look in the window or look in the settings to see that it has updated and has taken all the versions. I'm not going to open up the app and do all that. I know it updated successfully, and you'll want to just double check inside yours. Go in the settings of the app, and you'll see the flight control firmware, the gimbal firmware, the camera firmware. You'll see your version of the app that you're up to date with that. And from there, anytime you do a firmware update, I do recommend you go into the app and do your horizontal calibration on a nice flat level surface like this, but not around any electronics, any metal objects, or magnetic material. And the other thing I recommend you do is the location where you're going to go fly for the first time after doing your firmware update. Initiate through the app a manual compass calibration. So in the menu, in the settings menu of your app interface, it'll say compass calibration. You want to click on that and do the compass calibration where you turn the quad for compass calibration 1 and then turn the quad for calibration number 2. And that's that. So hopefully this helped, and if you have any questions or comments, as always, just leave them below and I will do my best to get back to you in a timely manner and help you. And thank you to everybody who subscribes. To all you newcomers who are just stumbling upon my channel, please click subscribe, and everybody watching, give that thumbs up. And that's it. Thanks a lot and take care.